When I think about how to respond, I think about how to get through stuff that's really hard and that makes me really angry, or that hurts me so deeply that I don't know how to move forward. If it's against or about another group, I put in my mind someone that I love with my whole heart. And whatever decision I make with that person's face in my mind. And that way, every decision that I make will be from love. It will be from unconditional love.
We need to give ourselves and the people around us an opportunity to change and to grow. We are so polarized right now as a country. A lot of people don't let themselves come to a different view. And a lot of people, kind of say, oh, that person's over there, like stay over there and keep being wrong almost, versus, all right, get educated on this and change your view and, come over here and be part of the solution.
I'm still trying to be in listening mode. I want to know, I want other people's input at this point. And I think a lot of people are in that position. They want to understand the context of what's going on right now. Let's start listening to each other. Let's start understanding each other, where they're coming from. Maybe just not hearing each other, but actually understanding each other. Let's make this everyone's initiative.
I am not the most politically correct person. Let's just put that out there. But I'm always open to conversation, and my whole life, I've always been, I can meet you where you are, right? If this is where you are, I can meet you where you are. And I'm always willing to extend an olive branch to whoever is willing to take it. Hatred is a learned behavior. Bigotry, hatred, all of that's learned. You're not born that way, right? Everybody's gonna be confronted with something in their life, some sort of bias in some way, and how you handle that. And the relationships that you build and have affected you in your life will determine how you view that bias that you're confronted with. That impact that you have on a child's life will help them build the strength to say, that's not right.
My first question to you guys is, what are some proactive steps that we can take to battle or to counter the racial injustice that's taking place? We all seen it. We've all watched it, we've felt it. Now, what can we do?
Be willing to have the conversation, right? Just like we have this group here, or even if anyone wants to speak, one-on-one, be willing to have the conversation, but not just willing to have the conversation, but willing to listen, right? Sometimes the conversation is you not saying anything at all. I have a vast group of friends. They are concerned. Some of my friends have come to me and I feel ashamed for not knowing what I didn't know. They also have family members that are on the other side that may be okay with racial injustice or have whatever, racial biases that they have. This may be difficult for them as well, especially if they have grown up in families that may have used racial slurs or may, see things another way, but they are at a point where they don't see things that way, but these are their blood relatives. And be grateful that they're coming forward, coming to me and wanting to have that talk.
I think that it's not just what you can do, but there's a lot of apathy. There's a lot of people that are just on the sidelines. And my big thing is there needs to be a critical mass where once there's a critical mass, things will change very rapidly, I think. An analogy would be, if you look at smoking, how smoking was very common, and it seemed just overnight, it became so taboo and everybody hated it all of a sudden and you couldn't smoke anywhere. There was a critical mass in the global mindset, this kind of where we just all shifted. And we are so close to that point. But the problem is there's a lot of people that are still on the sidelines. And in my community especially, the Asian American community has always been kind of on the sidelines with these types of issues. Part of it is we've been used as a racial wedge between the different minority communities. That's where the whole model minority myth comes from, where the establishment paints Asian Americans as this model minority in order to create a wedge between the other minority groups and the whites, and be like, oh, why can't you be like them? They do well, and they're submissive and obedient and do well in school and don't cause any problems. And then the Asians hear that, oh, that's a compliment to me. Okay, well, I will be like that then. Yeah. I will be submissive. I will not cause any problems. I'll keep my head down. And so that model minority myth is actually complicit in creating racial problems. And the Asian American community has been complicit in not stepping out and realizing that you're getting played. And I know growing up, I played into those stereotypes to my advantage whenever when I could and when it was to my advantage. And now looking back, I realized I was getting played. This is wrong.
Then you met me.
Everything changed. Everything changed.
I didn't even think about it like that. Wow.
Yeah. So so historically, that's why they don't go out. The Asians don't vote. They don't speak out. They don't march. They don't do these things, and that needs to And it's not just Asians. I'm just using that because that's a demographic that I know. Yeah. But there are still. We got to get people off the sidelines and stop this mentality of it's not my problem, or I'm just going to keep my head down, or.
When George Floyd passed away, you guys called me and you guys checked on me. And I just thought that was so powerful, especially you, Mr. Marzek. You reached out to me just to see if I'm okay. And you just listened to me talk. I felt like I was talking for a long time. I was, but the fact that you just listened is just what I needed in that moment. And I think that's the start that people need to have. And it's not always saying something in the moment. Matter of fact, you mentioned it in the interview, but it's having a heart to listen.
You talked about it being about relationship, and you're obviously something I care about. I care about you a lot, your family a lot. I did not want, it came back to what you were saying, I did not want the way I approached you to end up causing you more pain. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So I felt so compelled to call you. But I did feel like, gee whiz, what if I do this in a way that makes Karen feel worse? And so I was very happy that we had that conversation, because it made me think after the fact. I talked with my wife, maybe just not to, these conversations don't have to be perfect, but as long as we're having them, it's the key.
Absolutely.
Even maybe I say this the wrong way, or maybe I don't, but I think if you got something out of it, probably got more.
That's what I needed in that moment. Exactly
and Jason, thank you for talking to me as well. Garen was not your only phone call, and I know you, and I know that you've probably called in. You called me as well. And
I would say I called you first, and I don't think I did as good a job.
Practice somewhere. Gotta start somewhere.
I was the come up. Okay. No, but I appreciate you for that, because like I said, it was in a time where I needed that. I needed to know that my friends are really who I thought they were.
There's an enemy, and the enemy is fear. Mm-hmm. It's trying to protect, to feel safe, and even when something happens, if you hear one little lie that just sort of makes it okay, you just sort of keep moving. And it's just keep moving forward. Let's just keep moving forward. Garen was my daughter's first grade teacher. It was his first year at Mark Twain. And the way that he spent time with Olivia and how far along he brought her and how passionate he was to seeing her learn and for her to improve, and then to come to our home and help us with projects and spend time with us. We would do anything for Garen. We would do anything for Garen. But that circle has to increase. We have to love We have to love wider, and we have to love purely from Christ. And our heart needs to be, I would do anything for you to be okay. I would do anything for you to feel safe. I would do anything for you to feel loved. And a lot of times when something happens, and I feel shame, just so much embarrassment and shame. And I just sit there and I'm like, there's so much I want to say. There's so much I want to hear, but it's going to come out wrong. And then here comes the enemy. You're going to look awful. You're going to get it. You're going to say it wrong. And then so what you do is you just lay low because you're afraid. And so I think the enemy of fear, the enemy of hate, the enemy of injustice is working on all sides. Because with our faith and our God pulls down all the walls. Yeah. He pulls down all the enemies. He brings in everyone together with this perfect love where there is complete justice, but there's complete grace. Mm-hmm. And Kamora, when you said that the fact that you could empathize with a person who is struggling with the family who would not accept you because of your color, mm-hmm. the fact that you could empathize with that is like heartbreaking. And I know you work with our children to teach them the Bible every week. That is so powerful to me. And I already love you. I'm already a big fan, and you know that. We know that. But how powerful is that? And I love that moment. That's grace. That's real grace.
I think one of the things that's been most powerful to me in this moment, and even before that, is when I have my African American friends sharing the stories of injustice that they've experienced in their lives. When it doesn't just become a news story or a social media thing, but it becomes something that's personal, that happens to you, Garen, or anyone else in this room, that has the kind of power to move me to do something. Now, I confess it probably shouldn't have taken something like that to be that. But when it becomes personal, and I say this to say, your story's important. And when you share it, when you tell someone else, especially someone who hasn't experienced that kind of injustice in their lives, it has a power to shift a mindset that just the constant barrage of news stories doesn't.
I want to congratulate you, especially those of you who are non-Black. The problem in the Black community is when we go through many of these troubles, trials, temptations, tribulations, troubles, issues, it makes you feel a lot of times that you're by yourself. You see how they feel in the Black? And a lot of the times we're waiting, well, wait a minute. Are you telling me you don't feel the pain? You didn't feel, moms, whether you Black or white, you didn't feel that pain when that young man was crying out for his mother? So where is, especially the Christian conservative, where are these people to speak up? Where are my white brothers and sisters to speak up? Now, I understand that sometimes it might not be sure what to say, but the fact that y'all are here, oh man, that speaks volumes. It makes us feel isolated. It makes us feel like, if I say Black Lives Matter, am I offending you? Is it necessary to say all lives matter? Well, if you went, the fireman goes down the street and there's a lot of houses, but there's one house on fire. Would the person say, well, all these houses are important? No, he would say, but it's that one that's on fire. And our situation has been a fiery situation. And we've needed, as a people, we needed to know, that's what Martin Luther King was marching with everybody about. Needed to know that we have people on our side who can feel what we feel. And not feel as though, well, that's just you people.
There needs to be involvement all around, just as you mentioned. So that means parents should be talking to their children. Teachers should be talking to children. The other thing that I think we should do or could do is begin to develop a connection with the police department, have like community meetings with them where the community is allowed to make suggestions to them as to what can be done to make changes. One of the changes that I thought of was having a national database of officers who have historically had problems, okay, relating to consumers or people that they pick up for various reasons, who've had police complaints against them. I think it would be great to have a national database of these officers so that we can be aware of who they are. And I would say limit them from going any higher to a position of authority where they can inflict more damage.
A lot of people that will watch this, you guys need to know that their son was inspired to do his own march and his own protest, and he actually ended up. Did he go door to door, or did he do?
Did. A few streets. They did. Well, we initially thought we had missed the protest, and the kids were really curious about what are they walking for, what are they protesting about. So of course, I had to explain that in a way that they could understand it without being hateful towards people. He was like, well, Mom, we could just do one here on our street. And I chuckled. I was like, well, maybe we could. I hope that if I can do anything for my kids, if there's a problem, that they feel like that they can be a part of the solution, that I nurture that and encourage that. And they were like, well, we should make one that's not as long, because it was hot. Not as many people, but one for our friends, Mom, one for kids, where kids can come to and they don't feel afraid.
They also, from a kid's perspective, came about not wanting their friends of a different race to feel like they were mad at them. Mm-hmm. And when they brought that out, it was like, wow, okay, so we're seeing it boomerang around, where they're like, I don't want my friends to feel like I'm mad at them. Right. Mad at, like, I haven't seen them in months, we've been locked down. I don't want them to feel like we're mad at them over what is happening in the world. So you got to see, they have those same thoughts that we have as well, even at that young age. Watching it kind of brought you back to when all those fears as a young Black male that I had, and seeing him being able to step out in front was huge. I've watched that video 1,000 times, shared it with everybody, so it just made me proud. Just to see him step out, and then when his little chin started rough, then he got that little bass drop, it was awesome.
Yeah.
Okay. From the Christian perspective, or as a believer, I just want to hit on the need to come together. I think that you find a lot of our denominations were based on separation. We go to church and we worship separately. We don't worship together. So we have the Vietnamese group that's worshiping together. We have the African group that's worshiping together. We have the Caucasian group that's worshiping together. And we have the Black people that's worshiping together. So if we could find a way to come together and work on racial reconciliation in the church, in the body of Christ, I think that would be major. And if we can work on that in our own home, under one umbrella, then we can take what we're doing under that one umbrella and use that to go and help teach the world.
I think some of the stance of people on the sideline is this, I guess, reticence to speak out because it's not their voice, and so finding ways to make sure that we can come in and amplify the voice of the minorities that have been disadvantaged for so long in various systems, right? And then the other is just the education factor. As someone who's prided myself on knowing the history of this country, the last 2 weeks as I've started to peel the onion back and understood, well, this didn't all start in 1960. It started in 1605, and let's walk it forward and then figure out all those places that we need to go back and make some changes.
And I would say, I think that that we're a team. That it is actually us against injustice, not us against each other. Yeah. Those are the images and things that are constantly fed to us. And I think if we just constantly remind ourselves that it's us together against injustice, it will allow more people to get off the sidelines and jump in the fight. Because I just would hate to believe that if you see someone struggling, if you see someone calling out for help, that you would not help that person 9 times out of 10, I would think that a good-natured person, a regular human being, even not a good nature, a regular human being would help to some degree. And I think oftentimes people look at it, like Spencer said, like it's not our fight. The purpose of this is so much more than just being able to make a video to make a video. The goal of this is actually to be an example to all that are watching, and hopefully you find something in this video of value, something in this video you can apply to your life. And we wanted to take the onus and the weight on ourselves to want to provide some solutions, to provide some relief, to also to provide a sense of hope of what the future looks like. So I would encourage all that are listening to do some of what you've seen today. If you're a writer, then write letters to your city officials, to your state officials, to your national officials. If you are a poet, a speaker, use your platform on social media to speak about the injustices that you see. Also, don't let a moment go by to not speak up. We often walk on by, and we often we're so quick to help people all across the world who are in a poor third world country, but people around us, family and friends and loved ones and church members that are around us that are struggling, we often feel like, oh, someone else will take care of them. Let's take the burden and put that burden on ourselves to do something. My dad would always say, if everyone does one thing, everybody say one thing.
One thing.
If everybody does one thing, I can honestly tell you our world would be changed. So I encourage you guys that are listening to do one thing. So thank you again for tuning in. Thank you for listening. Once again, my name is Garen Rush, and we are a wonderful group of people that want to create, see change, and be the example for change.